Welcome to the Pampered Thoughts podcast, where we are inspiring and encouraging women to love themselves as they are without shame or guilt, focusing on topics such as self-love, marriage and family, balance in life and business, and all things woman. Every week, we'll share inspirational topics that focus on helping you to overcome your struggles and limitations with lack of identity, low self-esteem, self-love, confidence, and so much more. I'm your host, Veronica, a wife, mom, speaker, entrepreneur, and more importantly, a daughter of the King. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Pampered Thoughts podcast. I am your host, Veronica, and I am so thankful and grateful that you all have decided to join me for another week of the Pampered Thoughts podcast. If you are new to the show, welcome. If you have been here before, time and time again, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I adore each and every one of you. I hope you all had a grand and pampered week. My week was grand, and I can't necessarily say it was pampered, but because it was a stretching week for me. So I don't know if your week has been a stretching week for you, but this week has been a stretching week for me. And I say that because it was stretching for my character. God has really been dealing with me on my character, on just developing the fruits of the Spirit in my life. And this week was one of those weeks. And I know it's going to continue on past this week, but I wanted to share it with you today because, like I always say, nothing that I share on my podcast or in my post on Instagram or wherever I share any type of wisdom or any type of revelation that the Father gives to me, it always comes through Him hitting home base first. So it always comes to me first. I have to deal with the first. I have to get my toe stepped on, and I have to put on the shoe because it fits. I have to take the first punch or the first the first cut of the sword, and that allows me to be able to share with you all some of the things that the Father reveals to me. And I don't take that lightly because I know that whatever I'm going through, I know that there's somebody else that's going through that same thing, and that what I can share, even if it's a simple or small little word of advice, I know that they could use it and that it will help to make their life better. So I don't take for granted the stretching and the pulling that the Father does for me, because I know it's not just for me, even though it is for me, but it's not just for me. It's for those of you who listen and who apply as well. And so today I wanted to talk about letting go and letting God. Letting go and letting God, because if you're anything like me, you want to control every aspect of your life. I mean, everything from the beginning to the end, from the here and the now to the now and the later. You want to control everything and everything that pertains to your life. And sometimes the Father is going to place you in a situation where you have no control, where you have no clue how this is going to happen or how that is going to happen. If He puts you in a place of having to sit still, and if you are walking around with burdens on your shoulder because things aren't going your way, because things don't appear to be turning out the way that you want them to, this episode is definitely going to be for you, because I found myself in that situation where I have allowed myself to, and this is not something that has just started, but it's been something that I'm just now calling to attention, or the Most High is just now really revealing to me that it's something that I need to change. Even though we are supposed to have self-control, the control shouldn't be overly controlling, meaning that it comes from you and then it just seeps over into the lives of others. And it shouldn't be to a point to where you control everything to the point that you don't let God be God and you don't let him do what he's supposed to do, because there's certain things in life that we can control and that he gives us access to be able to control, but then there are things that we just cannot control and that we have to allow God to be God and allow him to work in our lives. And I've been finding myself in that position this week, especially as it comes to dealing with my business, and then also just even in marriage, making sure that I'm the helpmeet to my husband and making sure that I'm not overstepping my bounds in trying to take the lead when he's the leader and the authority of my household. And I know that that might be a big thing for a lot of women and men in relationships, the whole submission thing and not being submissive. But I am working on being submissive, because that's what we're supposed to do as women. We're supposed to let our husbands lead, because that's how he has created men, and the women are supposed to be that helpmeet. Doesn't mean that we're their walking mat or under the bottom of their shoe. No, it means that we walk side by side together, but he has the final say. He has the authority that God has given him to run the household, and he's going to be held responsible for that. Sometimes, especially for myself, I find myself trying to take that leadership role in certain areas, and the Father has bringing that to me and letting me know that I can't control everything. I don't have to have controlled everything, because that's why he's given me my husband. That's why he's allowed my husband to follow him and to be led by him, so that he can control and take care of everything that we have to do. I say all of that to say that, like what you've heard so far? Great. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the show. There are some things in your life that you're just not going to be able to control, and you have to let go and let God do it. When I talk about having that control in my business, the Father is causing me to be stretched and pulled out of my comfort zone. And anytime you're being pulled out of your comfort zone, there's growth in that area, but there's also a stretching. There's also a pulling that the Father is doing that does not feel good. It does not feel comfortable. And we have to begin to learn to rest in his control, rest in his leading, rest in his guiding, because I'm one who prefers to be in the background. I prefer to not be seen, to not be heard. I can make things work and maneuver things in the background, and I don't have to take credit for any of it. But when God has a purpose and a call on your life, you won't always be in the background, because he has a voice that he's given to you that needs to bring you up in the front. And that's the space that he has me in, and that he is trying to pull out of me. And it's been a fight. It's been a fight, not from his end, but my end. So he dealt with me about control this week, because I've noticed just in every area of my life, I've always had to have some form of control. And I've noticed that I feel so much better when I allow whoever the Father has placed in lead to lead. And it takes a burden off of my shoulders. It takes stress off of having to do everything and having to be the person to make the final decisions and all of that. Not to say that there aren't going to be things that you have control over, which we all have control over ourselves, which is one of the fruits of the Spirit. We have to have self-control, but it's not the type of control where it's overly controlled and is doing more than what God has intended for us to do. So I want to kind of talk about why or how sometimes control can take effect. And I know if some of you ladies are with me, if you understand what I'm talking about, you know that there are certain things in your life that you feel like you have to be in charge of, and that everything has to go your way, and that if everything does go your way, then everything is going to go right. And so you don't want to release control to people because you feel like it's not going to go your way, and you feel like it's not going to go right if they take control. And that's not the way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be sitting in the passenger seat or in the back seat and letting God do exactly what he wants to do in our lives so that we're able to follow his plan, which is perfect. His plan is the ultimate plan, the perfect plan that we're to follow. And every time we follow his plan, it will always go according to plan. So one of the things that the Father kind of revealed to me in regards to letting go of control is that one of the things that causes us to control is that we have a lack of trust or lack of faith. And the Father, I was sitting down in my prayer and meditation time, and I was just going through Psalms 39, where David is talking about guarding his mouth and just allowing the Father to show him how feeble he is, how frail his life is, because our lives are short. We're here only for a moment, and then it's on to eternity. But there's things that the Father has to do with us and through us that we need to be able to hear his voice and his leading and follow his plan, because eventually his plan and his purpose will be fulfilled. And so as I was sitting in meditation and I was just thinking on how to apply that word to my life, it's like the Father told me, you do not have to control everything. You don't have to control everything. Your need for control is because you have a lack of faith in my abilities to take care of you. I want you to hear that again. This is for those of you who feel like you have to control everything. If it hit me too, it hit me as well. It cut me as well. But I want you to hear that again. He said you don't have to control everything, because your need to have control shows that you have a lack of trust in my ability to take care of you. How many of you feel like that? You feel like you've prayed so much. You've sought the Father on behalf of your marriage. You've sought the Father on behalf of your children, on behalf of your business ventures, on behalf of your career, wanting to get a promotion, your sick family members, whatever it might be that you've been seeking the Father for and you haven't heard an answer yet, or you're still waiting for your answer, but you're trying to control and manipulate the situation the best way that you can, because you feel that if everything is done your way, then it will go the right way. But I'm here to tell you today that you don't have to have control. You don't need to have control over everything, because your need to have control comes from your lack of trust in God's ability to take care of you. He said in his word that whatever we pray for, if we believe, we will receive it. We will receive the answer to our prayers, whether you're believing for a healing for a family member or for yourself, whether you're believing for a breakthrough in your finances, whether you're believing for your marriage to be restored, or for you to get married, or for you to have children, whatever it is that you're believing God for, he will answer that prayer, and it's in his time. There may be some things that he wants you to learn, so it's taking a little bit longer. Or it may be times where you've prayed, you got up and you walked away and you began to speak doubt because you said, oh, well, I don't know if this is going to happen. Or you've got among people and your words that went forth negated the prayer that you prayed. So it's taking longer for you to get your answer because you're double-minded in your faith. You're praying one thing, but you're speaking something else. And one thing about our words is that our words have the power of life and death in it. So whatever you're speaking, if it's not going along with or coordinating with your prayers, it's going to take longer for you to get that prayer. He said, when we ask for something, don't ask doubting, but we need to ask and believe that he's going to give it to us, that we already have it, that we've already received it. When he told me in my time of meditation that my need to control things was because of my lack of trust in his abilities to take care of me. That cut me deep because I thought, I do trust you, God. I do, I pray and I read and, I believe that everything is going to happen. But there's sometimes you get to a point to where you don't see certain things and you're kind of uncertain about what's going on in your life. And you begin to lose a little trust, a little faith, because it's taken a little bit longer for your prayers to get answered, or it's taken some time for what you're believing to come forth. And you have to recognize that the way God answers prayers may not always be the way that you expect him to. You may be believing for a financial breakthrough, but God may decide to want to send somebody to bless you by paying your bill, whether they pay off your house or pay your light bill or pay your water bill, not necessarily give you the money, but they pay the bill that you need the money for. So we have to take God out of the box. We have to allow him to bless us, to answer us in a way that he chooses to, because he knows the plan that he has for us. And he said that the plan that he has for us is of good. It's of an expected end. So when you feel like you need to have control, stop and think, why is it that I need to have this control? What is it within me that makes me need to have control over this situation? Is it something that I can control, or is it something that I need to let go and let God? Evaluate that to see what it is. If you can do that, if it's something that you can control, whether that's showing your child a new way to do something that you've been telling them to do, as far as maybe their chores and cleaning up, and there's something that they haven't been able to click on, yes, you can control that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if there's something that you can't control, meaning that you have a family member or who's struggling maybe in addiction or something like that, that's something that you can give advice, but you can't control the situation. That's something that you have to give to God, because it's their addiction. It's not your addiction. It's theirs. So you have to pray and give that thing to God and believe that God is going to answer that prayer, that God is going to heal them, that God is going to remove the taste of what that alcohol or those drugs, that porn addiction, whatever it is that they're fighting. You believe God that he's going to remove that, and you have to let go and let God allow him to do that. So look at the situation and find out, is this something that I can control? Is this something that I can change? If you're having issues in your weight and you want to lose weight and you want to get healthier, that's a situation that you can change. That's something that you have control over, because now you know that you can eat better. You can make the right decisions when it comes to the food choices that you make, exercising. All of those things can relate to you losing weight and getting healthier, or to get fit. That's something that you can control. But if it's something that you can't control, something that no matter what choices you try to make, no matter what decisions you make, it's still going to be the same unless something else happens, that's what you need to let go and let God. Give it over to him and pray about it. Let him be the one to help you with that. And another thing that he revealed to me too is that it's also a form of pride, because we're now basically putting ourselves in the place of God, and we're telling him that I know better than you. I know how this is supposed to go, and I can do the job better than you. That's a sense of pride, and we have to let that go, because God is our creator. He created the whole heaven and the whole earth, and all that dwells therein is his. So we can't sit on his throne and control everything, because we sometimes can't control ourselves. So we can't become prideful to think that we can control everything as it relates to our lives, because we deal with certain people, whether that's your spouse, your coworker, your employer, your family members or friends. They all have their own decisions. They all have their own opinions. They all have their own character, their personalities, and you can't control their decisions. decisions. You can't control what they decide to do with their life. You can only rather support, but if it affects you in a negative way, or if it affects you in some type of way where it crosses your boundaries, then you can control how you set those boundaries in place. But you can't control their actions towards you, because they have their own choices just like you do. But for us to feel like we can control everything and not allow God to be God is a form of pride. And we have to get past that. We have to allow ourselves to begin to rest in His hand, rest in His control, rest in the fact knowing that everything that He does for us is for our good, whether that's to build character, whether that's to help us to grow in the fruits of the Spirit. No matter what that is, we have to begin to rest in Him, rest in His wisdom, rest in His direction, rest in His protection, rest in His guidance, so that we can control what He gives us to control, what He allows us to control, and allow Him to control the rest of it. Your attitude toward people and yourself, those are things that you can control. But the rest that you can't control, don't focus on that. Don't look at that. Focus on the here and now. A lot of times we get into that form of control because we think about the present, think about the future, and we think about, well, what if? I'm a big what if person. Well, if I do this, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? And that's not a good way to be, because now you're getting to the point of now you're trying to find out the future. Now you're trying to handle the future before it even gets here. When that does speak of pride, because in the word it says, don't say that we'll do this and we'll do that tomorrow, because you don't even know if tomorrow will be here. So we need to focus on the present. We need to say, Lord willing, God willing, I'll see you tomorrow, or God willing, I'll see you next week, or God willing, we'll do this when I see you again, because we don't know if we'll have tomorrow. We don't know if we'll have next week. So we can't control that factor of our lives. Now, is it good to plan? Is it good to set goals? Is it good to have a vision? Yes, it is. The Bible does say that man makes his plans, but God establishes them. We know that even in our making plans and setting goals, that the Father is the one who's going to allow those to even come forth. If He does, if you've heard my testimony where I had a plan to go to nursing school and to start a career in nursing, but God completely changed that plan. He wanted me to stay home and take care of my children because He knew that they would need me rather than sending them off somewhere else. So we have to be able to adjust to those plans that begin to change. But it's okay to make the plans, and it's okay to pray over the plans, but we have to be adjustable. We have to be flexible so that the Father can do what He decides to do in our lives. Focus on the here and now. Focus on the present. Feel the feelings that you're feeling, whatever they are, and release them. I want to leave this with you because this will help in those times when you feel like you have to have that control. It's the scripture in Romans in 8:28. It's a well-known scripture. And it says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for the good, for those who are called according to His purpose. Just know that everything that happens in our lives, our mistakes, our failures, the things that we go through with people in relationships or family and friends, on our jobs, in our careers, in our businesses, whatever situations we find ourselves in, all of it works for our good when we're called according to His purpose. And each one of us are called according to His purpose because He created each of us on purpose for a purpose. So I want to encourage you today with that scripture and to let you know that you don't have to take control. You don't always have to have the need for control. That's something the Father is still working on me in. And I know even He's been working with me this week. I know that He's going to continue to work with me because it has been stretching. It has been pulling me to submit to that authority that Father has placed upon me. But He says that if you submit unto God, You resist the devil and he'll flee from you. When we submit to God, when we give authority over to God, we resist the devil flees from us. So just keep that in mind. And it's not just in submission to our husbands, but it's mainly in submission to God, allowing God to help run your marriage, allowing God to help run your relationships, your friendships, your relationships with your family members, allowing God to help you in your business, allowing him to make the decisions that you feel that you have to make as a CEO, allowing God to run the things on your job, your bosses, and the steps that you want to take to go further in your career, allowing him to lead you and to guide you. That's submitting unto God. Even your parenting and how you parent your children, allow God, submit that unto God. So with that being said, if you have not already, follow Pampered Thoughts on Instagram and Facebook at Pampered Thoughts, and on Twitter at I Am Pampered. If you have any questions, have any prayer requests, reach out to me at info@veronicascurry.com. I will definitely read your email and get back to you. But I hope that you all have been blessed. I hope that this was a blessed message to you. Is fairly quick, but I just wanted to come on and encourage you, to let you know to just let go and let God. You don't have to control everything. You don't have to control every aspect of your life. Just allow the Father to be the Father. Just allow him to be your protector, your provider, your redeemer. Just allow him to be your Father, your God, who sees all, who knows all. He never goes to sleep. He never slumbers. And just allow everything that goes on in your life, just allow him to handle it for you. And he will. And he will let you know what you need to do, the steps that you need to take. Because one thing about it is that you can only do what you can do. And then what you can't do, he will take over and do the rest. And we have to allow him to do that. It'll be less stress for us, less anxiety for us, and it will be more peace, more calm in our lives. Our mind won't be going 100,000 miles an hour when we allow him to do what he does best, and that's to take care of us as his daughters. So, with that being said, until next time, stay pampered. Thanks for joining us this week on the Pampered Thoughts podcast. Be sure to visit us at www.pamperedthoughts.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or RSS, so you'll never miss a show. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Pampered Thoughts, and on Twitter at I Am Pampered. As always, subscribe to the show to catch a new episode every week. And if you found value in the show, please leave a rating on iTunes and tell a friend about us. We want to continue to bring you the episodes you love. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, stay pampered.